Hey, welcome back to the shop. I'm Jason, and in today's episode, we are finishing up the drywall after our insulation project. We're doing a bunch of learning. Yep, a bit of playing. And like I said, a whole bunch of drywall, installing plugs, texture, mud, and let's jump right into it. So if you're not up to speed, last episode we cut 93 holes in my walls to blow in cellulose insulation. And if you haven't seen that video, there's a link up here in the top corner. Take a look at that. But that was a big project. Now the project gets even bigger. We are taking the plugs from those holes. We're going to be putting in backer rod or backer board, plywood is parts that I cut last episode. And we're going to be drywalling and trying to make all of this disappear. So with so many of these holes to fill in, I came up with a pretty efficient process. What I was doing was presetting the top and bottom screw. I marked all of my plywood so that I knew where to put it in to get an equal placement top and bottom. With those screws preset in the wall, I was able to throw that plywood in there. You can see there's so much pack here that it doesn't even move. Then I can drive the screw through the drywall into the plywood. I'm using a drywall set bit here so that I wasn't damaging the paper, but just recessing those screws. Then I put the screws into my plug. Most of the time I was able to put the plugs in and I throw them into my tool bag because right here I'm working on the shelf, but in a lot of the rest of the garage, I didn't have anywhere to hold anything on the ladder. Then I drive those screws in for the plug and I'm ready for the next step, which was mud. Were a lot of these holes to plug. I took my time and I worked on the lower ones, then I worked on the upper ones, so I didn't have to spend an exorbitant amount of time on the ladder all at once. Mixing the mud was a bit different for me. I am not a drywaller, so I was mixing it in a bucket. It was just easier than in the pan. And what I wound up doing was coming over everything with a single coat first. And this is 90-minute mud because I found that worked really well for me. And then I came back over that again with my fiberglass mesh. And here you see me fixing these cracks in my wall. I had a full 20-foot and like 15-foot crack there to fix. In this back section, I'm trying to pack that mud in with a little knife. And eventually I realized that was a futile attempt at being clean. And there was no reason to even try to be clean doing drywall mud because this stuff, oh my goodness, it was everywhere. Eventually, I wound up just using that 10 or 12-inch knife there and filling in all the holes with that first coat. You'll see me here in a second. What I do in the second coat is I'm putting a fiberglass mesh over the entire hole and the screws so that hopefully I don't get any cracking, I get a stronger repair, and I'm using multiple coats. I think in most areas I wound up with 3 or 4 coats of mud. Thin ones at that. That mesh that I was talking about, it came in a 3-foot by 75-foot roll. I made this little template so that I would get all the equal sizes and I could use the most of it that I could. And I wound up cutting all 93 little patches out of this roll. So previously I mentioned I was mixing in a bucket. Here you can see a little bit better the process that it broke down for me. I was using a paint bit there on my drill to help break up all the chunks. And I got a nice smooth consistency, and I was making between 2 and 3 of these pails full at a time. That way I could work just enough without that mud setting up. Even though it was 90-minute mud, I found it set pretty quick. So I really was bouncing all over the place in the garage. You can see that middle shelf there is already painted white. That was my tester shelf. I went through and I put all the coats, the texture, everything there to get a baseline for what it was going to look like. Then I moved around to the rest of the shop and I continued on from there. I did decide on the big wall to go ahead and fix the cracks that ran all the way down it. This one here in the middle ran all the whole 40-foot length. That was a bit of a job, and I'm using that fiberglass reinforced mesh. Here in the small side of the garage, I'm already ready to sand while I'm working on that other side there, then texture, and now my son can start painting. And of course, in true dad form, I told him what to do, then I came and showed him, and then I told him, and then I came and showed him what to do. He wound up doing an amazing job on this wall. This is the wall you see right when you walk out of the garage door from the house. So I'm really glad that it came together this nicely. Notice the sleeves have already come off of the shirt. It's getting the upper mid 90s right now in Phoenix. I am so glad we started this project. We did have a bit of fun here, the boys and I. It was a good family project, a lot of learning going on here. And we got to practice with the camera. We're all learning what it takes to try to put together a video, and we hope that you're enjoying it up to this point. Let's get back into the actual project. It's really important not to burn yourself on the exhaust duct to the water heater again. It was needed, but along the way I wound up knocking down a lot of the high spots with that big disc. So one of the tricks to doing a skip trowel properly is to first not have a freaking idea how to do this. So I've got that down. I mean, I'm a couple hundred or 1,000 feet into this now. And I still have no clue. I started with a 6-inch trowel, knife, whatever you want to call these floppy discs. And now I'm using this size. But I've got my leftover mud from my last fill, and I'm just getting a little bit on there and then dragging. You can see we're getting a texture. And because I don't have any idea what I'm doing, it'll blend in really well because, well, there's no purpose to it.
Your kids are also laughing at you.
Well, yeah. I mean, my helpers are out here with shaky hands and laughing faces, but, you know, that's important too. So you just...
Oh, that works.
Yeah. Now get the knife edge down. There you go. See? The texture. Now that your whole panel. Once our texture coat had dried, it was time to continue cleaning up and getting ready for the next process. That was paint. And we started by vacuuming out the shop, cleaning off the walls. We vacuumed all the walls. They were still covered in dust. The boys helped me break down the scaffold that we made. That's just one of the planks to my scissor lift that goes there on the other side of the shop. And then we were getting right back up onto the ladders and getting that paint put up on the wall. Now, we only bought 2 gallons here, and this space was much larger than 2 gallons was going to fill. So we were really only touching up the spots where we had put new mud on the wall. Later on, when I can get the garage emptied out, I'll repaint the entire thing, and I'll probably at that point do the floors. We all took part here. Everybody got a chance to paint because, well, there was a lot of painting to do. So here you can see my little one, Judah. He's getting his run at it before John, my older one, does. And, you know, Dad move here. Come on back in and show him how to do it. And then he can do it. And then I'll show him again. But, again, that's how they learn. All right. 93 holes, 40-foot crack repair, another 30-foot plus 8-foot, 25-foot crack repair. And this is the last swiggle of paint.
It's the final countdown.
All right, now you're gonna have to pan over to Judah since he jumped in there with that.
Hi!
Now we didn't paint the whole wall. We're gonna need a few more gallons for that, but all of the mud and texture is primed now.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and we'll see you in the next video.